Hey, Longo, let's talk about our origin story.
Okay.
Let's talk about the first time. Get close to that mic. I want to know.
Is this close enough?
No, that's just creepy. I want to know the first. I want the audience to know the first time we met because they want to know about that.
Okay, so I'm going to say, but this is, sometimes I change the story because but this is the reality. The first time we ever met was before there was jiu-jitsu in New York, and he brought a friend of his. Give me the guy's name.
It was Jerry.
Jerry.
I don't want to say he's not with us anymore, but I don't want to say
well, that's actually part of the story.
It is, but I don't want to mention his last name. He's good, but it is Jerry.
Jerry, and, he brings a friend to my school.
I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
How'd you find him?
He found the school. It was a Jeet Kune Do school, and he said there's a world champion kickboxer training there, Michael Ryan.
Yeah.
And it's Jeet Kune Do, and I know you know about martial arts. My father did Wing Chun Kung Fu.
Right.
And he knew I messed around with that, and I used to kind of scrap a lot as a kid, so he was asking my opinion, and he wanted me to come down and check out the place and see if it was a legit place for him. Because he was kind of a troubled kid, this guy.
Yeah.
So then I walk in, I'll go from here, and then it'd be like a relay race. And then, so I walk in with Jerry, and it's in like a little bit of an industrial area. Right?
It's a lot of body shops.
Yeah,
right?
body shops. So it's kind of like, yo, where the fuck? I thought we had the wrong address.
Yeah, no sign or nothing.
No sign, nothing. It's like a warehouse.
Mickey's Gym.
It's a warehouse attached to a car detail place.
Yeah.
Right? And then I see Longo with his arm in a sling and a black eye.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I got banged up sparring pretty bad. Or fight, I don't even know. We were in the city. I'm just going berserk. But so he comes in with this kid, and he said he's a troubled kid. I'd like to get him into the martial arts, and I'm like, my first thought was, wow, this is really cool. He's 17. I could tell he's young, but he's worried about his friend, and he thinks this is the right thing to do. So that's my first memory. So I don't know what happens. He gets him, but we talked that day, and we talked a little about jiu-jitsu. But
yes.
Nobody
knew about jiu-jitsu back then. There was these tapes called the Gracie in Action tapes, which was jiu-jitsu used in both dojo challenges and fights in Brazil, Vale Tudo fights, which means anything goes, Vale Tudo fights in Brazil. And then there was like a very basic instructional series or something, right?
Very
the
basic.
Horian and Hoist.
Well, now you even got me thinking. So I was doing jiu-jitsu already, because then I dislocated my arm, so I had to stop for a while.
Yeah.
So he's questioning me whether I'm really doing jiu-jitsu, because nobody was really doing it at that point, right? And you had done a Hoist seminar, but you weren't with Kukak yet.
Yeah, I don't...
Because when I was going to Craig Kukak, there was maybe 3 or 4 people in the class jiu-jitsu. Going to the city, and I remember Craig going to me, can you make money in the martial arts? And I was like, I felt so bad for him. I started bringing my students Saturday just so we had a couple of people in the class. Fast forward, I dislocate my shoulder. I'm out for a couple of months. I run into him the second day after it's dislocated. Because, I'm back in the gym.
You're back in there right away.
Nothing's stopping me at that point. But so when I go back to jiu-jitsu after everything's healed, who's the first guy I see is him. So I say, hey, that's how we really got started, was that time. And I had just bought a house kind of down the block from where he lived. So I said, where do you live? And he said, blah, blah, blah. And then we started driving in together. And that's kind of...
Not right away, though. And not to mention, I was a young kid taking the subway, trying to get downtown. I'm like, oh, you're from Long Island, too? And he's like, yeah, all right, good. I'll see you next week. I'm like, yeah, I can't lift.
No, that's not true.
I didn't ask him that. But in my mind, I was saying that to him. I was a young kid.
I'm sure I offered
way.
To drive him. To be
Christian, he never. So anyway,
so that's how
we became friends. And then back in the, listen.
But I think, Christian, what you have to understand, too, is this: when I saw him in there, the time I went back, and then we just started goofing on everybody in the class, like it was like kind of meant to be. I think that's the crazy part. It's like the sense of humor.
Yeah. There was some quacks in there too. You got to understand, the martial arts brings out some fucking nuts.
So I figured I was at home. I had another fellow ball buster with me. So
I always said, if you were going to do the Matt Serra story for a feature film, it's like, this is your Mickey, right?
Well, he's more powerful than Mickey, but yes, he is Mickey. So back, people aren't going to relate to this now because there's a jiu-jitsu school in every town.
Yeah.
But in the 90s,
There was nothing.
There was nothing.
Nothing.
So it started with 1 day a week at the Oishi Judo Club in the village, right? In the city.
You
it was
would know
down,
better.
it was Leonardo Street. I remember that.
You know what I remember?
You know
what I remember about Oishi? This is what would happen. I would drive him in Saturday morning, and then we'd run. We'd fight for who was going to take his shit in the bathroom. That's right or wrong.
Yes.
I mean, it was so bad. I think we were bringing our own toilet paper.
Sometimes we'd go to get in, and all of a sudden Bodie came out. And we're like, oh no, this big gentleman. Oh, Bodie was in there. Oh fuck, Bodie left the floaty. It was fucking brutal. Yeah. We had quacks back then, but it started with 1 day a week, and then it moved up to 3 days a week. But I used to have to go to on Sundays. I'd go to Red Bank, New Jersey, from Long Island. We all did.
I went. I used to go. Wait, first of all,
I'd make that trip where the fuck were you? I wasn't. Were you carpooling with me?
It's me and Larry Schnurr.
Oh, you did that actually before me.
No, and then you would go to the Bronx to pick up somebody.
Quentin Lupo.
Yeah,
Quentin Lupo. Yeah. So I'd pick up Quentin from the Bronx. I'd go, and I drive 2.5 hours to do an hour private lesson. Could you be professional? Was that us? What was that? Do you realize you're on air? Do you realize that we're on air?
Absolutely not.
So listen. So that's how we'd have to learn that. So Longo, being the good guy that he was, he had the place over in Mineola, he had his own place in Mineola, right around, right down the block. And he gave me the key. The guy gave me the key to, first he would rep with me, and then sometimes he'd rep a lot with us. We had a Barry, we had a freak squad over there. We had a bunch of misfits.
Let me tell you something, I was a standout in that class.
Yeah, it was rough. But back then, hey, remember we put the face mask
100%.
on? We had a mask that looked like something out of Pulp Fiction, and it was fucking like the Gimp, but it was like hard with the nose, and we'd practice. Everything back then was geared towards fighting.
100%.
I don't even think there wasn't any tournaments right away. So everything was somebody in the guard trying to punch each other. Oh, it was fucking crazy. We had a blast.
Headbutts. I was headbutting poor Tommy Chan.
Oh no, we had some battles in there. We wanted to see if the stuff worked, you know. And this was the time of the early UFCs, so everything was geared towards the fight. So anyway, that's how we met, and then.
And let me just give him a compliment. He was a phenom. He was a really tough kid. But that's like what I really liked about him, because he was tough, but he had a great sense of humor. Normally, sometimes tough guys they're just sick. You know what I mean? But he could turn it on and off. We're laughing.
Trying to say I'm normal?
we're laughing, and then he's got that killer instinct. So, half of those times we had the cage, I was getting the shit beat out of me. That's what I'm trying to come from.
Well, did you guys know, though, when the UFC started in, like, 93, right? So when it started to catch on, at what point did you, let's, take a shot at this?
Right, so here's my interpretation. Wait, first of all,
go ahead.
So when I started going to the city, because what happened with me was I got a call from one of my instructors from California. It's actually Vunak, and he said, hey, look, there's a guy coming to New York. Get with this guy. Think about what he said, which is true. A year from today, you'll be way ahead of everybody, which in jiu-jitsu terms, that's a lot if nobody's doing anything.
Pre-internet, by the way.
Right, so this is before the UFC. So when I was in there was no UFC. Then I dislocated my shoulder. In the course of that time, like 3 months, the UFC hit. When I went back and saw him, it went from 3 people in the class to 30 people in the first class and 30 people in the second class. And that's really the whole way the whole thing got started.
And what people will never, but they won't understand now, the guys that were there at the time will, like John Danaher, the early Silver Fox, the early Henzo Gracie black belts.
Silver Fox was in there.
Oh yeah. He was just at the Serra BBQ. Where were you? You weren't at the barbecue.
I was in Aruba.
All right. Fucking nice excuse.
I wish I was at the barbecue.
Yeah, the barbecue's fun. The Serra barbecue every year.
Oh yeah, it's a blast.
Is that the thing where you jumping off the rocks?
No. Oh no, that was my buddy Pete, my brown belt. That was his. He has a nice thing at his house. That was that. But no, we have the annual BBQ every year. Next year you're there. Once you start training, if you would have put a fucking gi on, you would have been at this thing. No, I'm only kidding. You're busy, Christian. We have a good time. Where the fuck was I? Bring me back. Oh,
UFC.
Oh no, back early days training. The knuckleheads that would come in to the academy in New York City. It was unreal. And you'd think
like every day too.
Oh no,
it wasn't like once a month or once a year. It was every day.
now, and I don't recommend this now for everybody training at Serra BJJ. I don't want any lawsuits. But back then, like I remember, like, and not saying it like braggingly, but I would remember popping arms on a regular. I remember guys. I remember our buddy Stevie V. I'm not going to say his last name, but Crazy Steve.
Oh yeah.
First time meeting him, he did the old Dalton. He tried from Roadhouse. He tried literally fucking grab my fucking throat. Oh yeah, I remember Hensel used to have a thing where it'd be like, he'd be like, Matt, meet my friend, and I didn't catch on I'm learning on the job. I'm 20 years old, but I was one of his best guys there, So when a knucklehead would come in, he goes, roll with my little friend here. So then it would be a knucklehead, and the first time was one of these guys, this guy Steve, we became friends with afterwards, out of his fucking mind. He grabbed my throat, like literally put his fingers in. I remember this is the first time I ever took an arm. I got his arm, and I heard up to 3 pops, pop, 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 and then, Hensel comes over, Matt, I told you to go easy and yada yada, and I thought I was in trouble. I didn't know what was happening. And then, Steve, get him some ice to my friend. And then behind his back, he's going, nice. Like he's like, I'm like, okay, I'm not in trouble. Yeah. But that was I could name.
But again, think about why that was happening, because you had those Gracie challenges, and that's what set the tone for these guys walking in and just, wanting to test everything. There was a lot of guys out there. That's why the whole, they kind of put that whole tournament together was to really eradicate all the fucking idiots. That poor Kempo guy, remember? Fred Eddish, they throwing that poor guy in there.
The problem is back then, like when we were growing up, kids growing up now, they know what mixed martial arts is. Right. They know what real fighting is.
Right. Back then.
When we were growing up, who's the toughest? I don't know. Could a karate guy?
It was like the Kumite.
It was blood sport. It was who would win in this.
Yeah, like if you had a good sidekick, you were a monster back then.
So there's always these myths of who's the better. The wrestler could beat this guy and that guy. So that was so fascinating about the UFC, because when I did my very first seminar, it was with Horian and Hoist in Danbury, Connecticut. I took a road trip with a buddy of mine. Guy was doing Taizen. After the seminar, I fell in love with this. He's like, I'm already a green belt. I'll stay with fucking Taizen. Like, you motherfucker. Anyway, fucking Taizen. Anyway, remember that shit?
100%. Right down the block.
Yeah, right down the block. Yeah. Anyway, you didn't know what worked, is what I'm saying. When I went to that seminar, and I'm like, wait a minute. There's no fucking counters. I got a wooden dummy in my garage. Every time I start a fight, I do a chain punch and I'm tackling somebody. I'm mounted. I go, you get the break. I go, this is beautiful. I fell in love with it right away. My dream was like at that time, I'm like, maybe one day I can have a school and I can have one of these challenge matches. And I don't want that shit now. Nobody show up now. I'll smack you and you'll get out of there. But I don't want that. But back then so I exceeded. I never thought. When they told us at that seminar, Horan and Hoist, about the concept of the UFC. If you know it, and they were literally like, if you know anybody, and they, interested in it's. And I know they did this in Brazil, but I kind of didn't believe it until I seen it, because at that time you didn't think you'd see something like that on television, right? I mean, Longo.
Yeah,
it was a different time. So anyway. I became champion. I voted out a lot. Longo. Anyway, so I exceeded my dreams, but I couldn't have done it without the great Ray Longo.